Please note that your call may be recorded for quality assurance or training purposes.
You've probably heard the line, your call may be recorded, before 1,000 different customer service calls. But lately, recorded doesn't mean what it used to. Because now the call isn't just recorded anymore. It's analyzed in real time by artificial intelligence, built by a company you've probably never heard of. That AI is tagging your mood, guessing whether you're angry, and summarizing your conversation to train itself for the next one. And that software, it's now at the center of a growing wave of wiretap lawsuits. Plaintiffs are arguing that when companies let third-party AI systems listen in, that counts as a second unauthorized listener and could violate state privacy laws. And these aren't small cases. They're targeting the tools that are used by major call center platforms. We're talking the ones that handle customer support for banks, insurance companies, airlines, and tech firms. So even if you've never touched an AI app yourself, there's a good chance one's already listening to you. And that's not the only case turning helpful AI into a privacy nightmare. There's also Otter AI, the popular meeting note taker. It's facing a class action lawsuit claiming it recorded private business and academic meetings, and then used those transcripts to train its AI models without proper consent. That means the AI that you were trusting to take your meeting's minutes might also be keeping some info for itself. If you've ever used a meeting recorder or a transcription bot, this one especially should make your skin crawl. Because suddenly your HR meeting, your client call, or that early product brainstorm may have ended up in somebody else's data set. And if that's what happens when you let AI listen in, imagine what happens when it's plugged directly into the heart of your business. That's what happened with Salesforce. An exposed integration token, basically the digital master key that lets Salesforce talk to an AI assistant, opened the back door into customer records across multiple companies. Client names, pricing tiers, renewal dates, all were suddenly vulnerable. And this wasn't just some small vendor with a weak security system. It was an enterprise platform that's used by Fortune 500s and small businesses alike. In fact, over 700 businesses were affected by this breach, including Farmers Insurance and Louis Vuitton. Which proves one point. Even secure systems get risky fast once AI connections start sharing data behind the scenes. And sometimes risk doesn't come from what's shared, but what you thought was deleted. And this leads us to Reddit's lawsuit against Anthropic, the company that's behind Claude. Reddit claims that Anthropic scraped its site to train its AI, including posts and comments that users had already deleted. It's a reminder that the internet never really forgets, and that AI companies are making sure of it. And it's not just data scraping. You aren't safe anymore just because you've never made a public post on Reddit. Even the companies leading the AI revolution are now being told to hang on to user data, sometimes against their will. In the New York Times versus OpenAI copyright lawsuit, a federal judge ordered OpenAI to preserve all its user chats, even ones the users deleted, meaning that even if you cleared your history or used a private chat, it might still exist somewhere indefinitely. So delete may not really mean just delete anymore. And finally, the story that proves this problem isn't limited to words or data, but your face as well. Earlier this year, Clearview AI, the company that scraped billions of online photos to build its facial recognition database, agreed to a class action settlement. But instead of cash, the settlement just gives the public a 23% ownership stake in Clearview itself, which is currently valued at about $51 million. But really, that means millions of people whose faces were taken without consent are now partial owners of a company that took their likenesses. And this all comes after the damage was already done, and it really doesn't give the members of the public anything. Clearview built one of the largest facial recognition databases in the world by collecting images from social media and public sites without permission. This data is now being used by police, private companies, and governmental agencies, all powered by AI. So if the idea of your deleted Reddit posts or your private calls being analyzed bothers you, imagine your face living permanently inside an algorithm that can identify you wherever you go. It's not just about privacy anymore, it's about your identity. And all of these stories aren't just headlines, they're symptoms of a much bigger issue. IBM's latest cost of data breach report found that AI played a role in 13% of all data breaches in 2025, either as the target, the tool, or the backdoor. And in almost every one of those cases, 97% of the affected organizations didn't have proper AI access controls in place. So think about that. Almost everyone is experimenting with AI, but nobody seems to be managing it safely. And here's another number. 63% of these organizations say they have no policy at all for how employees should be using AI. So that means if you or someone on your team uses ChatGPT or Copilot at work, there's probably no rule book for what's allowed and what's off limits. And IBM has put a price on this. Companies with lots of shadow AI, meaning unapproved or unmonitored AI tools that are used under the radar, spent $670,000 more per breach than those without it. We're not just talking tech companies, we're talking law firms, hospitals, schools, small businesses, anyone who might deal with sensitive information. And here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't really opt out of this anymore. AI isn't something you decide to use. It's already built into your email, your word processor, your internet browser, your meeting apps, and your customer system. So even if you never open ChatGPT, you're already relying on AI dozens of times a day, and you may not even know it. So let's be honest, protecting your own data won't fix the larger problem here, but you can make smart choices. Turn off settings, redact names, but that won't stop a company from scraping public content, leaking credentials, or quietly using your data anyway. And that's the hard truth about privacy now. You can only control your end of the exchange, but your end does still matter because almost every breach, lawsuit, or scandal starts with someone trusting a tool too much. So no, you can't make a system perfect, but you can make it harder to exploit you. And that is worth doing. And here's how. When you're planning to use AI, start with a 10-second privacy check before every prompt. Before you hit enter, ask yourself, could someone recognize a real person, company, or patient from this information? Would I be comfortable emailing this to my competitor? Is chat history or sharing turned on? Am I signed into a work account? And could I rephrase this more generally and fill in details later offline? That 10-second pause is the difference between private brainstorming and public disclosure. You could also try to redact before you paste anything into a chat. Doesn't mean it has to be fancy. Replace names, locations, and dollar amounts with placeholders and tell the AI that you're using generic data. That protects privacy and builds better prompting discipline at the same time. And remember to turn off training and chat history wherever possible. Every major model stores input by default, and don't let it. If you can't find the option to turn it off, assume everything you write is being kept. Also avoid public by default features, such as discovery tabs, galleries, or share this chat button. All of these are risky by design. They exist to promote the product, not to protect your data. And try running AI locally when the stakes are high. If you're handling client files, HR records, or anything confidential, use a local model that never leaves your device. Tools like GPT for All, LM Studio, or Olama might be slower, but they are private and often good enough for summarizing or drafting sensitive material. This is a subject that came up a lot in the comments on another video I did. And yes, I will make a full walkthrough on how to do this safely. If that's something you would like to see, please let me know in the comments. The more people who ask, the sooner I'm going to prioritize that. One other thing you could do is to choose privacy-first providers. When you do use AI, pick companies that treat privacy as a feature, not an afterthought. While these aren't flawless, every click towards a safer tool sends a signal that privacy matters. DuckDuckGo and Brave AI are two models that were mentioned by viewers in the comments to another one of my videos. And above all, assume that nobody else is double-checking you. Most breaches don't happen from malice, but from misplaced confidence. It's easy to assume that the product, your employer, or your IT department has already solved privacy, but they probably haven't. That's why your awareness and the small habits you're building here are what's actually going to keep the next leak from having your name on it. If you're in a position of influence, ask questions before any AI system gets rolled out. Who has access to this data? Where is it stored? How is it protected? Can employees opt out if it involves client or personal information? Those conversations don't just protect your organization and clients, they set the tone for everyone who works under your direction. Because privacy isn't a technical issue, it's a culture. AI can be an incredible tool, but only if you treat it with the same care that you would give any other professional resource. Your Salesforce notes, your meeting transcripts, and even your late-night chatbot experiments, they all deserve the same level of protection as files stored in your office drawer. You don't need to avoid AI to stay safe, but you do need to be smarter about how you use it. If you found this video helpful, hit like and subscribe, maybe even share. It tells the algorithm that this content matters and helps more people protect themselves. And I would love to hear from you. Which of these stories freaked you out the most? Let me know in the comments. Because the more we start talking about this openly, the harder it becomes for companies to pretend that privacy doesn't matter anymore.